And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today, happy to say back in Wichita, and I'm with Grant Johnson.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
I know we're doing it at your house, dude. You're a homeowner now.
I am. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of surprising things, a lot of things. It's just a great time. It really is.
We have a lot of things to catch up on. You do a lot of stuff in the 4 months that I'm gone.
Oh, it's been a great time. Yeah, a lot of good things have been going on. It really seems like it.
And before I forget to mention, John Peterson.
I'm back here.
So we have John running the camera because there's only two chairs, but we extended a mic to him back there, so he's joining us in spirit. Okay, so we've been gone for 4 months. You've purchased a house. You turned 21. Happy belated birthday. You've developed an app, and you've also become certified as bilingual in Spanish. What else am I missing?
There's two apps, I think. Because one was Discover AR. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, that was when you submitted for the Google competition.
Yeah, so then there was that one. The humanoid, it got decapitated, sadly, when I moved. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I moved, and in the moving, I reprinted it, and I decapitated it again. But it served its purpose. There's a couple more things I was wanting to do with it, and we'll see whenever that becomes less time-consuming, or maybe I can hand that off to somebody else, too. Yeah, no, I feel like there's been a lot that's happened. Yeah, it's been busy. It's one of those things I'm really happy whenever we start talking about this stuff, because you don't think about stuff in the sense of how much has happened in this short time frame, but it's always nice when you can find an excuse to recollect on it.
Well, especially for you too, because like you're go, and like to take a moment and to sit down and like list it off, and then actually like, since I haven't been here to hear about it like regularly with you, you get to bring me up to speed, and it's kind of a reflective process too.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's probably something I need to get better at on my own too. I think there's a lot of benefit in being able to document what you're doing, reflect on it, and especially looking back and seeing the current emotions that you were having in that moment, I think is a lot of fun, because in hindsight, a lot of the things I do is very fun, but there are certain times in it, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. And a lot of times when you look back at it, it's really fun because of that, because it was hard. But it'd be nice to document the emotions that you're seeing in that moment.
Yeah. Would you do that in like a journal, or how would you want to capture that?
I think a lot of people in the past have done it with journals. Well, obviously, because when you go too far back, there wasn't video or anything to do that with.
Right.
But for me, I think one thing when I was in high school is that I would always write my papers like I'd speak. And apparently that's kind of frowned upon. I'd always get bad grades because of it. But I always felt like I was a lot better at the speaking part of it. I would always do better in those classes. So I think for me to accurately portray my emotions, I would like to do it on video. And a lot of times too, because I think even when you're just listening, I think there's a step from reading to listening and to watching it with video, and how much you're able to convey with not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it is the step to audio. And then what you're looking like when you're saying it, body language and everything associated with that too.
Dude, I love the depth that you always think about this kind of stuff at. Like, I love whenever we get together and it's like not just someone's like, oh yeah, I think I would just record a video and then watch it later. That sounds fun. It's like you think through, why is recording audio better than writing it? Why is a video better than just audio? And like all of the nuances to go into that. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because sometimes I think you lead to overthinking because of it. But I think you're able to experience better ideas because you spend more time evaluating each things and each branch of the idea of what can branch off of that initial idea because of that. And so you're constantly just running the stimulation in your mind over what happens if this, why, how can we make it better? Is there a better solution? So it's fun. I love, it's nice to apply that to engineering and different things.
I was gonna say it's interesting because I think that's something that a lot of high performers do, is constantly evaluate and probably likely overthink things. I think the benefit to that, even though it can likely, be difficult on you mentally, I think the benefit to it is over time, you collect so many more data points than your typical average Joe. And those data points can help you make more informed decisions. And you've also, it's not that you're smarter, it's just that you've ran through more things that wouldn't work in a simulation in your mind. So you can make decisions quicker. You can realize maybe the shortcomings of other things and the benefits of some opportunities. And like, there's just so much more happening in a shorter time.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the reasons why I was fascinated with learning a new language too, is because there's no shortcut to it. You know, there's a lot of time that you have to spend to be able to do it. And maybe it's one of those things, if I told you to go run 50 laps around a track, there's an efficient way to do that. And I think a lot of people are doing that by running in the outside most lane, you know, and obviously you can cut that time down quite a bit by running on the furthermost inside. But I think there's still a requirement of time to be able to do that. And it's not something that, to be fluent in a language too, meaning that you're able to think in that language and without hesitation, you know, and that's just something that takes time and experience from.
It's an exposure thing, you know. It's like you have to have it in the background. You got to have it in your peripheral. Yeah. Have you had any dreams in Spanish yet?
Yeah. And I don't remember a lot of my dreams. At one point, I started documenting them because I had this class in high school that it was psychology, and they said how beneficial that could be. Yeah. And that there was a lot of good ideas that came from that. Mine are not. So I started mine, and I first thing I did when I'd wake up, I would go write it down, and they don't make sense. So I started with 4 of them, and it would be like, well, sometimes it was kind of scary too. I would be like running from somebody or something, and then all of a sudden I'm in Switzerland playing basketball with Elon Musk in Spider-Man shoes, and it's like, okay, well, let's try to evaluate this a little bit. And it's like, I don't think that makes sense to me. I forgot what tangent brought us on that, but I do have weird dreams.
I asked if you had any dreams in Spanish yet.
So, but then I traveled to my grandma's house for Christmas, and I shared a room with my little brother, and he was saying that while I was sleeping, I was yelling in Spanish. So really? I was sleep talking in Spanish, yeah. Which when I went to Europe with Keenan, he said I was doing presentations in, not in Spanish, but I was doing presentations over my work in Spanish, and I would be like, oh, well, you can see on this slide we have that whole thing.
That's really cool. It's kind of weird, but it's really cool.
Yeah. Man, sleep is so interesting.
And it's so crucial too. Like it's overlooked a lot of times, but it's also like you just don't operate right if you're not hitting that ideal range. For some people, that's 7 hours. For some other people, it's 8. Some people, my cousin Evan, 10 hours. He tries to get 10 every night, and I can't fathom getting that much sleep.
Yeah. It's interesting to see, even with different people in history, their routines and habits. And it's one of those things. I watched this video the other day, and I was thinking about it quite a bit, but this guy articulated it much better than I would. And it was talking about addressing, like, if you want to be better than 99% of people, do this. But then you see that video has like 50 million views, and it's like, well, we all can't be in that
right.
1%. And by definition, it has to be, if you're in the 1%, then you're doing 99% of people won't do. And I think it's easy to then assume all that becomes in the execution phase of it. But when you look at those different people, they have all these different executions. Steve Jobs, he was really weird. And like some people will say, wake up 4 a.m., dress real professional after you run 10 miles and everything like that. And I think that can work for some people. Steve Jobs obviously didn't wear shoes a lot. Kobe Bryant would eat like pizza and Fanta before basketball games. And so there's a lot more to that than I think is just an execution phase. And this guy articulated, he wrote, I forget his name. He wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F Word.
What was that?
But I really think a lot of that becomes, and he articulated it very well. I don't want to steal any of his ideas, but it comes from having non-conventional ideas is number one. And then 2, being right about that idea, because everybody can have unconventional ideas. The example he gave was day trading. Everybody can think, I'm going to get rich off of day trading. Many people have tried it beforehand. And so, and some people, it works really well for them too, actually. But first off, you have to make this bold prediction. In this case of Steve Jobs, since we brought him up, he was right about computers being on the desk of every single person in their workplace and having a personal computer 10 years before it actually happened. There's a lot of predictions like that quite a bit. And it's very unlikely that you actually have that idea on the first time either. And it's not bad to start over. It's not starting from scratch. It's starting from experience. Being able to move past that with the experience of what you've gained from the past gives you a better accuracy of being right about that idea in the future too.
It's a data point.
Yeah.
To bring it full circle. Fun facts on Steve Jobs. I'm a big Steve Jobs fan. He used to walk around barefoot. He didn't shower very often because he had some weird practices, one of which eventually led to his death. They had medicine that could have really helped and potentially cured him. I believe he had some sort of pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And he just didn't believe in it. He wouldn't eat properly, and that really sped things up. But he wouldn't wear shoes, and whenever he would get stressed out, he would go into the bathroom and put his bare feet into the toilet because he thought that would calm him down. And then he would also wear the same black sweater and jeans in the later part of his career every single day because he was making so many decisions that he thought that by having to make one less decision of what to wear every day, he could free up one better decision to make it Apple.
Yeah. And now I often go on tangents because something distracts me. And the reason why the sleep thing provoked that, because, for example, Einstein would sleep 10 hours a night.
I was just about to bring this. Yeah.
But then, like Thomas Edison, some days he would go 3 days in a row and just sleep maybe 1 hour, anything associated with that. But I think by evidence that obviously sleep is good for you. But it's just interesting to see all the different habits of people.
Well, and it really is crazy how you just brought up Edison and Einstein. I was literally about to bring up Edison's often regarded as the greatest inventor. I think it was well over 10,000 patents he accumulated over his lifetime. And one of the things that he used to do was he would sit in his chair that he would work at, and he would work until he couldn't work anymore, and he eventually fell asleep. But what he would do is he would tie a string to his finger that was connected to a bell above him, and when he fell asleep and his hand would fall off whatever was on, it would ring the bell, and he would jerk awake, and the first thing he would do is he'd have a pen, piece of paper on his right. He would grab it and immediately try and write down whatever the dream was, whatever he was thinking about, whatever came to him, because he believed that on the threshold of sleep, which is one portion of your mind, and then being awake and using a different part of your mind, that there was a lot of creativity and a lot of things that could come from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's been quite a few people that have been really successful in the past that have done that too. And I think, and when I heard that, I was thinking about some of my best ideas are the ones that were most successful. And I do feel like it brings a new level of creativity to my ideas. Mm-hmm. Maybe when you're implementing how practical something is and you're wanting to do the logistics of it, maybe mathematics, then it's something that you want to apply structure to. But my most creative thoughts have really been right before I go to bed.
I'm curious. Let's put some some parameters in context and to remind everyone. Grant just turned 21, dropped out of college at 19.
Oh shoot, maybe 18.
Maybe 18, but
19?
became
No,
Koch's
19.
youngest employee ever. You were 19 or 20.
I got 19 when I was hired there.
Okay, so became Koch Industries' youngest employee ever. Dropped out of college. Super smart guy. And I'm curious to ask you, what is how do you currently operate? Like, how much sleep are you getting? What are your hours of operation? How much do you think you're working through the day? Like, because you're very unique in the things that you've already done so young. I'm curious to know, how you conceptualize the world and operate within it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really big on routines. That has been really big for me. And so at the start of the year, and what I was testing out the last couple months of the year previous, was a really nice routine that helped me. And so the routine started at about 10 p.m. every night, and it started with 20 minutes of piano. I started learning from this app called Simply Piano, and it's pretty neat to see how much you're able to become proficient in something that you knew nothing about just through an application. It's one of the reasons why I was inspired to do something with Fluency, the language app. So it starts off with 20 minutes of that. It's then about 10 to 15 minutes of reading the Bible, followed by 10 to 15 reading in English over a certain thing, and then 10 to 15 reading in Spanish. So, and then what was really nice after that is because when I used to have a very staggered routine, my mind can really race over dwelling on certain things, and I can entertain myself. On some flights, I would just not put in earphones or anything, and I would just look straight at the chair in front of me and just try to solve these problems and think about them and their solutions and different complexities associated with that. But I found, and I used to have that problem when I went to bed too, is that I'd just get so stimulated because I would be thinking about things. But when you get it in the nice routine, I was at the point where I was like 2 to 3 minutes a night over the sleeping. Now, I think routines and something associated with that is really great when you're in a discovery phase over what you're wanting to do, of assessing all this different information that's presented to you. And nothing more than just experiencing it and trying to analyze it. When you're wanting to execute on an idea, then those hours that I was spending learning the piano and reading these, a lot of times it was different books. I think they fall into the category of self-help, just how you think about things and analyzing the world. That's really great in a discovery phase, but in an execution, I kind of got rid of those where I'd have most of my day dedicated to my work at Koch Industries. And then afterwards, I started working on fluency. So that time was very crucial, especially when you have just about 3 hours a day to work on it.
So then going to bed around 11 or like what are the hours here?
In the last couple of weeks, and sometimes you're time constrained too. And so you'd like to implement something that's sustainable long-term, but obviously there's exceptions when you're put into a time constraint. And we have a competition coming up here soon. So I've been working on getting that ready, and I leave for a trip here in a couple of days. So in the last couple of weeks, it's probably been like 14-hour days of work for me, and it's exhausting. It's probably not something that's sustainable long-term. For this exception, then it's something that definitely is. And so it's been waking up at 7 and going to my Koch Industries job, and then I work out and eat, and then I work till about 11:30. But I don't think that's primal, I don't think that's sustainable long term.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I get a lot of more work done whenever I stay up later, and I get more creative as the night goes on. Like if it's 11, 12, 1, 2, like I get really creative. I feel like I'm very efficient. But when it's like a maniac phase or so, a manic phase is what I'm trying to say, where it's like that works really well for me, but then it's a good short-term solution to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. But in the long run, it affects me very negatively from a mental standpoint. It just all becomes too much, and the lack of sleep starts to get to me, and I feel very overwhelmed. So especially like right now with everything going on with the restaurant and whatnot, I've been in a sustainable routine of getting a good amount of sleep and then just trying to keep those constraints. It's like, yeah, I need to get more done, but it's also, I'm in it for the long haul at this point. So let's try and make sure I can withstand that.
I think for a while you were waking up, or were you staying up that late, or were you waking up?
I was waking up, yeah.
At like 5 or 4 or something, right?
Yeah, it was like 4:30 or so. I was getting up, and that was tough, man. But that's what we had to do because we had to be at the restaurant by 6. And if I wanted to get podcast stuff done, or I was still helping out with my old job, I would have to do that before work so that after work we could work on everything else with the restaurant and the build out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that you were more efficient when you were staying up late or waking up early?
I think I'm more efficient when I have a really good morning. Like this something I've been thinking about a lot is like, and I asked John this question too the other day, like how many hours a day are you actually efficient? Because if I'm working 12 hours a day, I'm not efficient for 12 hours a day. Like there are some days where I feel like if I can dial it in and really focus, I can get what would normally take me 12 hours done. I could get it done in 6 to 8 hours or something like that. And so I often try and figure out like causation versus correlation, like what elements helped me to be more efficient on that day to get more done in a shorter period. Mm-hmm. Which your question was daytime versus nighttime. I don't know how I ended up there.
No, it's interesting, and it sparked a thought because especially when you're in a large company, levels of efficiency vary, not just dependent on you, but on how you compare to others too. And so what you may be able to do in 2 hours maybe take somebody 6 hours, and how you go about, there's a whole bunch of things associated with that. But optimizing the company well enough to be able to recognize that too.
Mm-hmm. So why is it important for you to work out? That's like an hour. I mean, I know you work out quicker, but that's like 30 minutes to an hour every day that you could be working on other stuff.
Well, and if it's something that everything ends in 6 months, then I probably wouldn't work out. But if it's something, the goal is not to be successful in 6 months, but to be successful for a lifetime, so you want to implement the right processes for your health. I personally think I have better thoughts too when you get a workout in there. I actually been running quite a bit lately too.
Nice.
Yeah. I did my first half marathon.
How did that go?
It was good. It was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. And I was like, all right, well, we should just try a half marathon today. And I think I made a mistake by, I would run 1 mile and then walk 0.1 miles. And I wish I would have just ran it through.
Yeah.
Because I felt every time I started again that everything hurt a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to run my first marathon here soon, but I signed up for this F45 tournament, which is like Orange Theory, if you know what that is, or like 45 minutes.
It's like CrossFit kind of.
Yeah, as much as you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one's just 10 minutes long, and you do 45 seconds at each station.
Jeez.
An example, like you do 45 seconds of rowing, you give 15 seconds to move to the next one, and the next one maybe pull-ups.
Yeah.
And then the next one is burpees or something like that. So I thought it was hurting and I didn't mean to sign up for that either. I went to that one time because I missed a couple workouts, and it's a nice full body workout, and they signed me up for the tournament, and I'm not going to do anything worth doing. Well, and there's a thought about that too. That anything worth doing is worth doing well, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get most of the value out of it when you've done it to 80 or 90% completion. So I don't know if I agree with that, but in the sake of this, I have a hard time not doing something well. And so in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing that, and I thought the long distance training was counteractive to that, and something that is not limited to the time of the next week. So that'll come after it.
You verbalizing your tangents and then disagreeing with yourself mid-conversation is like the most relatable thing I've ever heard to what happens in my head when I'm talking.
You know what's so interesting is that some people don't have an internal monologue. To me, it's not necessarily a monologue. I feel like there's a lot of voices. That sounds weird, but there's a lot of personalities and perspectives, and it's internal debates. So a monologue usually just represents one person. But that was so mind-blowing to me when some people don't have that.
Who told you that, or how'd you find that out?
I saw a TikTok, but I looked into it more. And it's not a large percent of the population, but I did watch a YouTube video. I think I watched the first couple minutes of the YouTube video, not all the way through. And yeah, it's crazy describing their experience.
I have never heard of that, and I would be very concerned if someone did not have an internal dialogue.
Yeah, look it up. I'm not lying, and I hope I'm not lying, but I'm certainly intending.
Well, how do they govern themselves? Like, do they not have a conscience either?
I mean, I think there's certain things. I think a lot of it would be pushed to the subconscious, but even when you're speaking right now, you're not thinking about what I'm about to say. Sometimes when I'm listening, then something sparks a thought in my mind, and then I instantly start to say it. But I'm not thinking about what is this whole sentence and how I'm about to say it. So I think it is possible, and that's how I was able to understand it. But yeah, to me, it'd be crazy to me to not be able to have that internal monologue.
That is crazy. We'll have to do some more research on that in the future.
Yeah.
Wait, so this F45 competition that you're doing, when is this?
It's Wednesday. So it was supposed to be the following Friday, but I'll be gone at that time. So I got mine moved to Wednesday. I'm real excited. I want to get first. I really do. You guys should do it. Not do better than me, but should do it.
Well, anything worth doing is worth doing to your best, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's just not better than me. So
I don't know, man.
No, you guys would spark a great competition, and it'd make me train much harder for the next week.
For the next week?
Yeah.
Is this at WSU?
Mm-hmm. That's at the Heskett Center.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd rather not do that. F45 sounds terrible.
It's tough. It's crazy because something like that is just limited to the amount of pain that you're able to take for a short amount of time. And it's interesting whenever you go to run like an ultra marathon, because that's sustained pain for a long period of time, and it's gradually getting worse and worse, sometimes exponentially. But 10 minutes, as hard as you can go, just limited by when you want to stop, it's crazy.
I don't think it's just limited by when you want to stop, though. I think there's also people who train for it will have a higher threshold. They're able to do more work before they start to feel the pain that someone might start to feel sooner.
For sure. I think there's conditioning to it. The reason why I'm excited is because no matter how much conditioning you have for it, you're going to feel pain.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of if you want to start slowing down at that point.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for that. It should be fun.
And then after that, you're going to train for a marathon?
Not train. I think I'll just run it. That's my plan. Maybe hit something in the middle. Maybe I'll do like a 20-mile thing first. But yeah, we'll see. Because the one that I did the other day, it was kind of just spur of the moment type thing. I didn't have anything going on in the afternoon. I was like, I think I can do this. And I do think most people could do it, so I don't think it's that impressive. But by the end of it, I felt it more in my joints and different things. But I think with the right motivation, I could do it.
Do you have a goal with this marathon? Is it just to finish, or do you not want to walk any of it, or do you have a time goal? Or
no, not necessarily a time goal. I want to finish it. And it's interesting. When you run the long distances, are you fatigued in your lungs and different things For me, when it was long distances, I usually run at the end of it, but it's more that, man, I'm really kind of tired in my muscles maybe.
Right. Yeah, I experienced the same thing.
Yeah. So to me, I'm not necessarily concerned with the time. I'd like to finish it. I wouldn't want to walk a whole lot. I think if it was taking me like more than 6 hours, then that would be a disappointment. But
I challenge you to do it without walking. That's my personal challenge to you.
Man, sometimes the walking is so motivating. It's like, oh, I can walk in 6 more minutes. You know, you just think about that. But
well, you can just walk in 5 hours if you just ran the whole thing, or 4 hours.
Yeah, just think about that. No, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll think about it and I'll let you know.
I'm curious to see this. Maybe this will spark you wanting to do a 50 miler. Who knows?
Yeah, that's one of the things too. And it's hard. You know, it was hard to understand when people get into like bodybuilding as an example, and they will be so muscular and so, and it just kind of looks gross. Mm-hmm. But when I first started running, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to train for this 5K for my work. And then I'm never going to run more than that because I don't want to. And then I got the 5K done and I was like, well, I bet I could do 5 miles. And then we started Friday 5. And then after that comes the half marathon. And then right now my perspective is I don't want to do anything after the full marathon.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's kind of a gateway into it. And it's hard to understand it, why anybody would want to do something like that when you haven't experienced any of it. And I guess it's easier to relate once you have done it, not even necessarily in the realm of running. For example, if we're doing it like this over why somebody would want to do an ultra marathon, I bet that's a common example, but a common theme why people ask you, why would you ever want to do that? But once you start to gradually make your way into it, then the steps that once seemed like one giant step now looks like a million little steps when you look in hindsight.
Something that I'm fascinated by is the idea of potential. And so for me, it's always like, well, could I do that? What more could I do? Like you said you ran a half marathon, and I'm like, well, could I run a marathon? And that's basically what happened to me is after I did the marathon, I was like, well, could I do 50? And then after 50, I was like, well, could I do 100? That hasn't happened yet. In fact, after my whenever I did 80 miles and failed the 100, I was like, I'm never running again. This is the most pain I've ever felt in my life. I never want to run again. And then here I am romanticizing it. And right now I'm like, yeah, I want to do 100 miles.
Yeah, exactly. And in the moment, if you would ask me if I wanted to do it again, I would say no for a lot of the things that I've done. But you give it a couple of days rest afterwards and you're ready to do it again, but more.
I think it's official. I think I'm going to do 100 miles and you're going to do a 50 miler at the same race.
Oh, I didn't agree to that.
No, I think we just did it. I think it was kind of subconscious. You gave me a look. I gave you a look. I think it's happening.
I don't know if I was looking. We'll see. We'll see at the time. Right now, I'm like, that would be insane. I wouldn't want to do that at all. But maybe times change.
If you guys are listening to this and you think Grant should do a 50 miler, swipe up and you can just send a DM to @RealPeriodConversations. Grant, what's your Instagram?
Grant Johnson Creates. I changed it because of our conversation a couple conversations ago. Because you didn't like the Grant __ Johnson that made a little smiley face.
It was difficult to verbalize.
Yeah, to verbalize, but it was a nice look.
It did look nice. I'm sorry I made you self-conscious about your Instagram handle.
Yeah. No, I might be switching to like a Grant D. A Grant D. Johnson. I don't know. That sounds very presidential to me. Not that I'm running for president.
That'd be kind of cool. Or you should do like Dr. Grant Johnson.
Oh, yeah. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Well, anyway, send Grant or me a DM that he should do the race, and we'll keep the receipts and try and pile up the evidence against them. Do we want to bring back the Friday 5?
Yeah, so Friday 5. So we used to have this group, and it grew to about 11 people. Friday 5 then grew to one person, or shrunk to one person. And that was me. And nobody wanted to run it anymore. And so it was just me. And the ice baths aren't as fun when you're alone either.
Just facing demons.
Yeah, especially, I tell you what, ice baths first thing in the morning, it sounds so fun at night, but I'm a different monster in the morning. And it's not myself. It takes a little bit to get there. And so I would force myself. I wouldn't negotiate with it. But man, I would just sit over that ice bath after I put the ice in it and just stare. And 1 minute would go by, and then 2, and then it's like 10 minutes before I even took a step in there.
You don't like who you become in the morning.
No, it's one of those things. It's right now I'd like to shorten my morning routine from 1 hour to 45 minutes. Well, it's 45 minutes, but then a 15-minute drive. So 45 to 30. But I can't negotiate with myself in the morning because that Grant thinks this Grant's crazy. I don't want to do that because the shower is very warm. And I want to take cold showers in the morning, but the morning Grant does not.
Morning Grant's got to get with the program.
Yeah, maybe I got to
have a talk with him.
Night Grant's got to like uninstall the hot water or something.
Or a software update. See if you could do something.
Yeah, man, that would be nice.
So wait, talk to me about your morning routine. What are you doing now?
The morning routine is kind of boring for me, I think, because there's not much that goes on. But it is just the normal brushing your teeth and everything associated with that. Sometimes there's Spanish music involved. Sometimes there's not. Yeah. So my night routine is much more interesting than that. But I don't think that there's anything I can get rid of. I still want to brush my teeth and everything associated with that. I still want to shower, but it's more shortening that. Probably not brushing my teeth. I'd like to keep that at the 2-minute mark. I don't know if it's 2 minutes. I started flossing. Shoot, that's probably not something. Every once in a while, when you get me in the zone, I start spitting stuff out. And it's like, shoot, you can't take that back when it's on a podcast. But I used to not floss. But it's out there now, so I got to explain it a little bit. I used to not floss growing up. And I went to the dentist. And the dentist, they'd push so hard and it'd make me bleed. And I told him, you got to stop pushing so hard. And it's because they said you don't floss. And I said, okay, I'll floss for the next 6 months. And the next day when I come in, we'll see. And I did it. And there was no pain. And the whole time I just smiled, not because they told me to open up, but like it was great because I used to dread it. But now I floss at nights and no blood, no pain.
So it actually works?
Yeah, they weren't lying about it.
Yeah, I don't floss regularly, and I should.
See, now that's embarrassing for you. It's out on the public.
I'm not embarrassed by it at all. All right, so back to your morning routine. I'm kind of confused because you had this whole internal dialogue going on. Are you taking ice baths in the morning, or did you stop doing that?
No, I stopped doing that.
Oh, so morning Grant 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I really much value the sleep nowadays, and I couldn't wake up earlier to do more things like the ice bath, and that was taking more time. So I had to ditch the ice baths in the morning. But we still have the tub and stuff out there, and I'm looking at getting an ice machine.
I think, we can figure this out, but I would be on board to look at bringing Friday 5 back.
Okay.
And I think that my participation stopped because I moved out of town for 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm very much on board to get back to it. I am having a little bit of recovery session right now, recovering some injuries from running. But once I'm done with that, I'd love to get back into Friday 5.
Yeah. I think the problem was, too, is that I moved out here, and it's a little bit further away.
Well, I have a central location that's central for both of us that does have a lot of ice that we might be able to use.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to figure this out.
So we can have a discussion offline about that, but yeah. I'd be interested.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see that grow. Like Spanish Night, you guys were founding members of. And that
yeah, where's our credit at? I saw your LinkedIn post.
The credit is in the people I follow on Instagram because that's how I keep track of all the people who've come. So you guys have been followed by it. So
appreciate it.
It's a commodity only given to about 50-something people now, which is pretty cool because it helps me keep track of everybody that's come. And speaking of that, so when you guys came, I think we had 8 people maybe, and we then transitioned to 2 people. It was me and Patricio from Argentina. But then at the start of the year, man, we spread like wildfire. And now we have more than 50 people at that they don't come every single time.
Yeah.
Usually on an average night, we'll have like 20 to 25. And it is epic. Now we have almost 9 countries. We'll have our 9th country tonight. And just different activities. And we're all learning and improving. Well, they're not learning, and they're hopefully improving, but not learning much in the language realm because they know a lot of it.
It's their native language.
Yeah. But there's a lot of Americans that come too that are learning.
That's really cool. Was Spanish Night sparked out of one of our conversations, or was that elsewhere?
It's sparked by this guy named Miguel that he works at Koch, and there's a couple of things that kind of made you want to pursue it. But Miguel, so my first 100 days at Koch, 90 of them, I had a double bacon cheeseburger with fries, and Miguel was the cook at that station. And it was disgusting in hindsight, especially as I'm starting to eat healthier. But man, it tasted good. And so every time I would talk to him, and we'd always make jokes about the usual. And one day, I told him that I talked to him quite a bit because I spent quite a bit of time with him while he's cooking the cheeseburgers. And I was like, oh, yeah, I had a Spanish class in high school. And he's like, oh, you should start learning again. And then the guy next to him, Bruce, who's from the United States, he taught me all the bad words in Spanish. So then it kind of just started this thing where I started learning Spanish to talk to him. But then obviously there's conversations with you that and other people that made it so, I think this is something worth spending time on pursuing it. And so that's how it started. And then we started Spanish Night because first of all, it's a lot of fun. And second of all, I think it's very important. Well, and in the U.S., we see learning a language as a hobby. But for other parts of the world, it's a key necessity that people have to do to improve their lives and careers. So after recognizing that, it got me curious over how we may be able to implement some of these different methods that we're using in Spanish Night to be able to then bring it to an app. Because I think right now, I mean, there's different apps on the market to be able to do it. But if you actually look at the usage over it, most, by and large, the majority of their users, well, not majority, the largest country that's using it is the United States. But for us, we don't necessarily need to learn another language. And so I think for them, it's kind of more of a hobby app. But if you got it to a point where people are good enough to be able to learn a new language, and in large part, that's English for most of the world, to learn their language. Sometimes a lot of times the language is around their country, and then English if they're wanting to move forward in their career or in their life, and in that sense. And so I think that would then transition it from the United States being a smaller user, even given the bigger population. Maybe they would be more of the paid users because there's a lot of wealthy people in the United States comparatively to other countries. But I think empowering individuals to then further their life by giving them access to be able to get these new opportunities because they know the language that would come very cheap and wouldn't necessarily have to come through private schools and different things when they're growing up. I think has a lot of potential in it.
Are you outlining the app that you developed, or is this a new thought?
Oh, no, this is Fluency. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. And I think a lot of times I start something with not a whole lot of plans in mind, but I think that it has a lot of potential around it, and to do it because I think it's important to learn it and then apply it. And then some of the sub ideas will come part of it. So an example is like the humanoid, and there's some future
Rest
plans.
in peace.
Yeah, the decapitated humanoid. But a lot of the things, and is actually an inspiration for Fluency too, where I started speaking Spanish to that when I started learning, and the humanoid was able to have a conversation with me. And so how could you put that into an application? And one of the examples that you can do in Fluency is that you can talk to these different people from the past. So an example in Spanish, maybe Frida Kahlo or Pablo Picasso, and be able to talk to them, learn about the culture being put into different situations, and having them match the level of where you're at in your learning progress. I think there's a lot of potential to that. And it wasn't something that was possible until AI and large language models got public usage. So it's been so much fun to develop. And I've been learning so much in that process too.
So is the primary user someone trying to learn English? Because you mentioned that seems to be a higher barrier to entry for folks from other countries to learn English. And you mentioned that it seems more of a hobby for Americans to learn something like Spanish.
Mm-hmm. I think the first language that would be offered, the first language that is offered, and there's a beta program too. You go to sign up at fluencylanguageapp.com. Eventually it'll probably be fluency.com, but somebody took that. So, and there's a beta sign up, and we welcome all sorts of feedback, and we have a variety of people that have already signed up for it.
Who's we?
Oh, it's me right now, but I have plans. There's a high schooler that helps do the artist stuff and animations, but I think the team will grow. And we have this competition coming up that I think would be key in gaining new resources. I have a lot of people that are interested in helping out with that. But I think we'd first offer Spanish for English learners, just because that's where we have the experience in. I think we've improved quite a bit in the last. I had 2 years of Spanish in high school, but in addition, I started Fluency. I started Spanish Night about 9 months ago, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so in that short time, we've grown quite a bit, and I actually just got a certification in being bilingual. And so replicating some of those same processes and giving it to people an opportunity for them to learn in an app in a very inexpensive way, or sometimes free with different ads, I think is something that can really change people's lives.
And how do you think it's different than Duolingo?
Yeah, I wanted to build Fluency if I thought that if there was an app on the market that did what I wanted to do. Otherwise, I would just use that, and I'd pay quite a bit of money for it. But so one of which I think Duolingo does a nice job of gamifying it. And I've used so many different of the applications, and each one of them have their different strengths. I think Duolingo does an excellent job of gamifying it in the sense of their animations, and they do some different things that are really great with the user interface, and we've taken some inspiration from that. But I think a lot of it's very repetitive, and that's what we've seen on the sign up on the beta sign up, is that we have them take the survey, and people found it very repetitive. Sometimes it was going too slow for some users, sometimes it was going too fast for some, and that's something that I think that we can improve on and give them new opportunities. Because really, I think the best way to learn a language is not going through these kind of flashcards or going these multiple choice questions. It's talking to Napoleon in front of the Eiffel Tower. And that's something that's not offered by any application as of now. And it's something too, if we get done developing it, and I'm sure that Duolingo and other people are working on similar things to this. And a common question is, well, Grant, what if they copy the same features and put them into their things? I think having a transformative mindset where I think that's one of the strengths that we have, is being able to have innovation and applying that, keeping the group small, and have these new feature sets that are always adaptable to the best way that you learn, instead of the way that generally people learn, is a huge advantage. But to answer your question, I would have fully, if there was an application that did that, I would have totally used it, and I would have been happy with it, and probably be talking about it in a different sense right now over how happy I am with that app. An example that I really like, we took inspiration from, is Simply Piano, with teaching piano. I don't think that I can necessarily become Beethoven by using Simply Piano. And the same way that I don't think that somebody can become a 10 out of 10 fluent in a language from just using fluency. But I think that we can shorten the time from people going from a 0 to an 8, for example. And if you're able to be an 8, and a lot of times people are wanting to learn because they're wanting to travel or they're wanting to do business, everything associated with that. An example is my friend Keenan. He's learning Spanish, and he works at the hospital. And so he wanted to learn Spanish to be able to talk to the patients that don't speak English down there. And he's able to do that very well because it's a general conversation over this certain topic. Being able to empower them to do that, I think, is super important for people.
I have a couple questions. The first one being, what would you think about an integration with XR or VR, where you mentioned, you're out in front of the Eiffel Tower talking to someone in France or in Paris. What if you actually were able to see it and to be there with the person too?
Yeah, no, I think that would be very neat. And there's an application that does something similar to that. I think they more put you into chat rooms to talk to different people, but I think it'd be neat to talk to avatars in front of that. From right now, it seems like most applications that are used on VR are very VR unique in the way, like Beat Saber, for example. That's not something that you can do anything remotely close to and on your phone. Beat Saber, for people who don't know, you put in this room and there's music going on, and for each note there's a different block that's coming at you, and you have to slice it with a sword. That would be such a boring app if all you did was swipe. That'd be kind of, Fruit Ninja's great. I like Fruit Ninja, but that'd be a more boring version of Fruit Ninja, in my opinion.
So you mentioned that fluency meets you where you're at. Mm-hmm. How does it do that?
Yeah, so we're working on a feature set for that too. And this would, it's kind of similar to what I did with my fluency test, is that it's like this 30 to 45 minute phone call that you have with an actual person. I think Fluency would do this with the AI chatbot. Well, not a chatbot. Well, kind of a chatbot, but an AI avatar that you'd be able to speak to and assess you on your different skills. And the way that I got my results back is it gave me these 8 different levels, and it put me over where I'm at and described that to me. I think one of the things that, and also what's interesting too, is that not everybody wants to just follow the standard course. Some people that just want to travel, they just want to learn the vocabulary to be able to travel, and they don't care about the medical terms, for example. Mm-hmm. But that can be flipped too. And so giving them the customization of how they make their own, given the context of what they've learned in the past, man, I really think you can supplement the way that people learn so that they're not running on the outside of that track, for an example. You really get them in the middle, and you get them the most optimal way that they're running, their form and everything, if you're going to continue with that analogy.
So you can create the scenario then, just like with Keenan, you can make his cater towards hospital terms and things that he'll encounter there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I've been having so much fun with it. Well, it's fun when I'm talking about it now. but like 11:15 last night when I'm just trying to finish up like something is, getting it on the App Store, for example. It sucks when it's something you think takes a half a day, but it takes like 5 days and you didn't have 4.5 days to spare.
Oh, because of the competition?
No, the competition coming up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got you. I think it's a really cool idea. I'm curious to see how you do in the competition because I know that I participated and you did last year too. And it's just such a wide range of businesses. Like you have a service business versus an app versus a different type of SaaS company. Like it's hard to judge apples to oranges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said earlier, it's not like I'm starting from scratch. It's like I'm starting from experience. And there's certainly things looking back that I would have done so much differently. One of which is that they have amazing resources at the, I forget the official name. Is it the entrepreneurial, Nancy?
The Center for Entrepreneurship?
Yeah, the Center for Entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And an example, I talked to Nancy Kirstenbrock and Troy, I forget Troy's last name.
Tabor.
Yeah, Tabor. There it is. And they gave me such good ideas. And one of which is that competition is it's not an idea competition, it's a business competition. And they're wanting to reward that team that wants to further their business, not necessarily an idea. Last year with VisionVest, it was very much an idea. And we didn't spend as much time looking at the market and how it fit into this because we were just so focused around the idea.
Yep.
But it's something that I've learned since then. And man, I'm surrounded with such amazing people too at Koch, and everywhere I go, I feel like that I've learned so much in that process. And so I really feel like I have a lot of experience in that space now.
Surrounding yourself with like people that are further ahead than you, but willing to reach a hand back and offer advice and like help you move forward. Is that not one of like the best feelings?
Oh, it's great. Yeah. And it's one of those things too. Some people reach out to me and for advice on certain things. And it's like one of those things. I have such amazing mentors that I'll absolutely drop whatever I'm doing if I'm able to help you in your way. Where I kind of draw the line though is if they want me to do something or if they want themselves to do something and want to know how. So, yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at John. The camera's all good? Okay. One of the things I wanted to ask you is like, you like to build things, you like to tinker, you're young, I've been using the word like aiming upwards, like you have ambition. What is 10 years from now? Like what is the vision for you?
Yeah. And I used to not be able to articulate my thoughts on that very well, but there was this, and I'm always, a lot of the ideas that I have are ideas that I think about, but then also accumulated by what I see and experience too. And I forget this guy's name, but he was presenting at a graduation speech. And it was something that I was very much able to relate to because I never had necessarily a vision over, I want to retire doing this. And first off, I don't know if I want to retire. I really like what I do. But I've never had a vision like that. And instead, I think it's been a series of micro ambitions where I think I know what I want to do with fluency. And so what can we do to most optimally put me in that position? But then also recognize that although I don't know what I want to do after that, how can I improve myself right now and implement the right habits and processes to make it so I'm the best I can be when I approach these situations? Accumulate all this knowledge so that I'm ready for the different areas that I think are likely to come up.
So you're saying you don't have a direct 10-year plan, rather it's focused on incremental improvement every day so that whatever does come, you're in the best scenario you can be? I
don't want to say it's an everyday thing. When I said a series of micro ambitions, it's more, I'm going to execute on fluency, for an example, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I think in the meantime that I'm going to be improving. And although I don't know what the next venture would be after fluency, and maybe it's fluency for the rest of my life, and maybe it's Koch for the rest of my life too. All these different spaces where I'm just learning so much. Making sure that I'm learning is one thing, seeing that continuous improvement, and then also executing on what I'm currently doing, I think is the best way to go about it. It's recognizing that I'm better today than I was yesterday, and I'm still learning. And if you can say that every single day, then man, that just multiplies. So I wouldn't say it's an everyday thing. I'd say I'm really trying to execute on what I'm currently pursuing.
Why is it important though for you to be executing, and like, why not just be complacent? I guess is my question.
Well, and some people, I mean, I think it's perfectly fine for them to be, to just find a job that, I guess it's the difference between like live to work and work to live. And I'm not saying I'm living to work, but I think the way that I was built is tailored towards this area, and I want to help as many people become what they can be in this area too. And so I think that's the common theme of my projects, of what I try to work on is this empowering individuals to reach their full potential or give them the opportunity to reach their full potential. And if you were to tell me that somebody likes their job just fine and they're not in love with it and they focus most of their time on their family, and I do plan on doing that in the future too, of putting my family in a priority over my job, then I would totally be okay with that. Yeah, but how can you affect the most people with the gifts and talents that you've been given?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like that.
But did you see the projection mapping?
For Christmas?
Yeah, for Christmas lights. So that was pretty neat, and it's something that I would want to implement into the humanoid here soon. But essentially, projection mapping is the opposite of augmented reality. And augmented reality, as an example, it's like when you get on Snapchat and you're able to see the dog filter over your face. And projection mapping is projecting that image of the dog filter onto your face, for an example. And so I was really excited about that. For the humanoid is actually the first reason why I wanted to do that, is because you can have the AI be a version of Abraham Lincoln, for an example, but can it look like Abraham Lincoln? So that was what I was so excited about. But I kind of moved away from that, and that's what sparked the idea with fluency too. And you can see, like, I had no idea that I was going to do fluency after the humanoid, but it put me in a position where the ideas and experiences that I've had in the past formulated new ideas and how they applied to my current situation too. Mm-hmm. So that was an example over like how you can improve yourself every day and not necessarily know what 10 years is now from now. But tangent, where was I at?
With the projection mapping, is it something projecting onto the humanoid so that it looks like Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And so for the Christmas lights, that was fun because instead of having like thousands of bulbs on your house, which actually takes a long time to set up, all I did was put a projector out in the front yard and I secured it and weatherproofed it. And it was able to project these very neat images that you weren't able to do with just standard Christmas lights. So that was very exciting. That really was. You
did that for children's home? Or
yeah, that was for the children's home.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I hope they really liked it. I know sometimes that I was out there really late trying to tinker with it because it's something you can only work on at night and it was getting so dark so fast. But it was fun. And Christmas is such an amazing season. And everybody that I know has knows that I have a fascination with LEDs and light ups. Yeah.
Your basement's a testament to that. It's got really nice lights.
Yeah, man. It's been fun. One thing about being a house owner, and so apparently there's, and this you're not going to think of how I got to this point, but there's two types of grass. Okay, and one grass is really good, and one grass is really bad. Was I a part of this decision making and choosing which type humanity prefers? I was absolutely not. But I'm having to pay for the decisions of my ancestors in this. And so apparently I have the bad type of grass. And this grass apparently looks better to some people, and it requires more water and more care, more mowing. But my neighbors, who I really love my neighbors, I think they have the good type, but I have the bad type. And I don't want to replace the grass. This is some of the things about home care. I was telling them earlier, there's a lot of things about adulting that everybody was going to say, oh, Grant, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to cook. I haven't cooked once since I was in this house. Yeah, so that's because I was telling them, and we can talk about it more. But for me, I think the value prop, I hate cooking. It takes a lot of energy. And for most people, it takes a lot of time. I think you're an exception. But I was telling them earlier, if you were thinking about how much time you had to spend about what you were wanting to cook, going to the grocery store and getting that, and then cooking it, and then eating it, and then cleaning it, and then doing that over and over again, man, that's time consuming. And I like food too, and I don't like eating the same thing every day. I think meal prep is a solution, but not for me. But so there's some things with adulting that I haven't had to adult. I do have to do laundry and stuff. My mom used to do my laundry, so that they were right about that one. But the grass, man, nobody expected the grass being a problem.
I don't think you're paying for your ancestors' decisions. I think it's likely the developer and the people who dug up this lot and built the house that you should have beef with.
Yeah, over generations before me is not necessarily my ancestors.
Isn't this a new house?
Yes. Well, it's 7 years old, but to me, like, as at least everybody I talked to in Wichita, one of its thing is called Bermuda and Fescue. I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one's a good one, which one's a bad one. But we collectively decided that was good grass and one wasn't. And it wasn't we, it was them. They collectively decided. But now I'm having to pay for that decision.
Do you think it was just the cheaper grass, not necessarily the good grass?
No, that's the more expensive grass.
Really?
Yeah. Do you see me? Yeah.
Huh.
And okay, I can admit, I can tell the difference when I get real close to it and it's nicer grass to like walk on. My grass is really bad and it's something I do not like doing lawn care at all, but it's something I've had to be doing. And yeah, apparently I have the bad grass, but I got to try to fix that somehow.
John and I are apartment hunting right now, or I guess we're house hunting, trying to find a spot to live. And one of the units we were at had a turf backyard.
Oh.
It was terrible. It had gravel underneath and then just turf laid on top. Not even like, not even solidly in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like turf, I think, but it would also get really hot. But I think sometimes I just walk on turf and I'm like, man, what a better version of grass. Although I think grass is great to have everywhere else, but maybe in my backyard, I think I like turf. Yeah, so that was a tangent, but
we're going to go do our next episode, like on your deck or something, and your backyard will be fully turfed.
Yeah, but then it gets too hot in the summer, so it's something to think about in that sense.
Way too hot. All right, back to this food discussion that we had. So Grant's standpoint is because of how much he's working, it's more economical out of opportunity cost and respect for his time just to go pick up food, since they'll make it and he can kind of eat healthier options if he goes to like Doc Green's and McAllister's, Panera, whatever, come back and eat it rather than go grocery shopping and buy your own food, make your own food, which is what I do. And you had estimated that it takes you 30 to 45 minutes to a lot to get that food. Does that include eating or not eating?
That includes
eating. So that's the time slot that you need for food. Personally, I get just a lot of like cold smoked salmon from Aldi for like $4, or I go and I meal prep chicken or something like that. And I would have to imagine to cook and eat, it takes me 30 minutes or so. And I also save money because I'm not going out and eating most days. So that was my argument. I'm going to call out to John here. Where do you stand on this?
I am, excuse me, I'm a big meal prep guy. So I buy a bunch of chicken and rice and, ground beef and stuff like that. Beginning of the week or on the weekend, I'm making it all up, putting it in, little self-containers for daily portions. And then, maybe that takes me an hour and a half to cook on a weekend. And then I can just grab it during the week and pop it in the microwave. But to Grant's point, it does get old after a while. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, and there's a certain amount of time that you have to spend in the day that's like not stimulated. You couldn't be 100% stimulated all day long. And my hatred for cooking makes me really stimulated. And so for you guys, it may make financially sense for you to do that. I don't think the value prop for me in the time that I would have to spend to make something that I enjoy eating. And I don't think I could do meal prepping, although I did eat the double bacon cheeseburger thing a lot. And so I don't think I could eat the same thing, most of the same thing frequently. So for you guys, it may make sense financially for you to do it. But I think my value prop over the time that I'm not spending like 6 hours on Netflix and that's eating into my time on Netflix. It's like I have limited time on Fluency, for example. And if I were to spend an hour cooking each day, then that like 30 minutes would take out of that time for that. And dishes and all this different stuff. So there's parts of adulting that I have not adopted to.
I've got two questions for you. The first one is a hypothetical. All right, so you want to be a family man here in the future. Mm-hmm. You get married. Your wife enjoys cooking, but she's a subpar cook. And she is redundant in the meals that she makes.
Yeah, isn't that a tough one?
What are you going to do?
I'll just like drop some hints and there'll just be some random like cooking books all around and stuff. And I was like, I just saw this at the store today. Don't think anything about it, but there's something interesting on page 8. And page 8 is just like a better version of the spaghetti or something. So at that point, though, maybe I'll have a chef, and that chef I'll like speak Spanish with. So maybe she won't have to cook.
I would imagine if it got to that point that you would then have to adult and you would start learning to cook, and then you'd be like, okay, I think I'm going to make dinner tonight just as a little treat, honey.
I don't know, man. You don't understand how much I hate cooking.
What do you hate about it?
I don't find it challenging at all. I think it's just directions. It's the same problem I had with Legos, I think. with Legos, because I used to always... Legos, whenever I was starting to build it, it wasn't... I would always just start without the directions because I always overestimated my abilities. And I would be like, all right, well, I can put this together. And it was challenging. And then I followed the directions, and it wasn't very challenging. It was very boring. So me, cooking is just a series of directions, and it's not challenging. And something so boring because I'm just sitting there and I'm stirring. And it's just so boring. And so for Spanish night, sometimes we do a cooking night, and I just had to sit that one out and watch and supervise because I was a part of the churro making team. I was a part of not supervise. I had to mingle. I was practicing my Spanish. I was part of the churro making team, but I had to leave that to them.
Yeah, there's a lot there, man.
Yeah.
My second question was going to be, are you going to eat another broken egg then if you don't like to cook?
Yeah, I've been hyping up my family to this because we're big brunch eaters. I have a big family. We like to eat. So I've been putting in a good word. I think we could be valuable customers for you guys.
If we could get Biggin to go in there,
oh yeah,
we would really appreciate that.
Man, Biggin's my dad for everybody that doesn't know. And he's adopted that nickname. He used to call himself Big Daddy, but my mom didn't like that. So we switched it to Biggin, and now everybody calls him Biggin. Like I probably call him Biggin 95% of the time and 5% Dad. So
it's iconic.
And everybody knows Biggin. He's got basketball jerseys with that as his last name and stuff. And so he's a big eater, and I'm helping you out. I think by spreading the information to them.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, your dad is great. I mean, we used to go play basketball on Sunday nights, and then you, me, John, and your dad would go eat sometimes. Oh, yeah. And that was some of the most fun. We were in Florida, and we would talk about that on Sunday night whenever we were getting back from the restaurant and how fun all that was.
Oh man, it's a great time. Everybody knows him as the. Well, we'll set up friends with eating competitions against him. Keenan, we brought up, for example, they had a taco eating contest, and Biggin put down, I think, like 27 or something crazy like that, and then went and got a large shake afterwards as a victory lap. I think
a unit,
yeah, absolute unit when it comes to eating. But man, those eating competitions are so funny to watch.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're going to start to wrap up because we have a house tour coming up. But, John, do you have anything before? No? Okay, John is shaking his head no. Grant, thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to Wichita. I'm excited to eat another broken egg.
Yeah, I'm excited for us to get to hang out again and to be around. When are you heading to Germany?
Oh, yeah. I'll be in Germany, and I leave for the 20th. And I'll be in quite a few different countries at that time for my job. And I'm very excited about it. But I will return on the 7th of May.
Okay. Wait, the 7th? Oh, no, that's still a pretty long time. That's like 17 days.
17. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'll be in Germany and the Netherlands and a bunch of countries in the UK and Ireland.
You're speaking at the Amazon. You're speaking at the Amazon thing too, and we forgot to bring that up.
Yeah, and I know you guys got to go, but I'm very excited for that. That should be a lot of fun. And then we have 2 sites one in Netherlands and one in England. So then I have a couple days after for vacation while I'm over there.
Dude, that's going to be such a good time.
I'm so excited. I really am.
I expect like either a YouTube recap video, a great Instagram post. I expect a lot of content out of this.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure to share it with a friend. Grant, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.